In this assignment, you're going to take some sales data that is specifically assigned to you. So every student will have a different sales data. So every student's going to get different answers. This is obviously to prevent cheating. And there's going to be a data file on prices, and that's going to be the same for everyone. And then what you need to do, you're going to use the optimal inventory management model under stochastic demand that we studied in class to determine the optimal reorder time. That is the time, the inventory level at which we should trigger a new reorder. And we want to do this specifically for one SKU. Remember, SKU is a stock keeping unit, so this is specifically for one product. And do know what I'm calling the optimal inventory management under stochastic demand here is called the EOQ model with stochastic demand in class. I'm not going to discuss the inventory management model here because we're going to do it in class. But what is important to know is that you're going to be given data on daily sales of an SKU, and it's stochastic. It's not, the sales aren't the same every day for this SKU. And what you need to do for the inventory model is to calculate the average daily sales of that SKU and the standard deviations of that SKU, because that's going to go into the inventory management model. One challenge in this model is, although we want to know the average daily sales and the standard deviation of daily sales in our data, there are some days where there are no sales, and so that the sales are actually zero, but that value of zero won't be in the data. So look at this table here. Notice that if this was our sales data, we don't have any data for January 3rd or 6th or 11th. It's not because the data is missing, but because the sales were zero and thus they were not recorded. Thus, what we're going to need to do is in Power BI create a new table where those missing dates are there. So here you have the dates January 3rd and 6th and 11th. Now they're there, and what we need to do is replace those missing values with values of zero for zero sales that day. And once we have that table with the values of zero like you see here, then we can calculate the average or the mean of those values. Then we can calculate the standard deviation of those values to put into our inventory management model. Okay, let us get started with the assignment. One of the first things you're going to want to do is find one folder on a drive you can access where you can store all your files. I'm going to make I use Dropbox. I'm going to make a new folder called PBI, Power BI, SCM for Supply Chain Management B, because this is assignment B we are working on. Okay, so it's built, and so I'm going to store all my files in here. That way I don't lose them. I have to spend a lot of time figuring out where they went. You're going to want to go to the class page in Banner and find something that looks like this. There'll be Power BI assignments, assignment B, and there is 3 files you need. One is the Word document, and this is where you're going to store your answers and submit them. So I'm going to download this, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Now when you go and get this, it may not look exactly like this, but it should look similar to it. And I'm going to save this in that folder that I just made. So mine was a PBI SCMB. And so assignment B. And you're going to see we want to save these files as last name, first name, PBI, PBIB. Needs to be like that. And again, it may not look exactly like this, but it will probably look very similar. Then we need to get our data files. One file on prices is going to be the same for every student, so I'm going to download those. So this is a .csv file. very similar to a TXT file, text file, in that it is a text file where data are separated in columns. When you open these, it'll probably open up in Excel, maybe something else, but you just got to find and figure out a way to get that into your special folder, which again, mine is PBI SCMB, and I'll just store it as prices. And then each student has sales data that's specific to them. Each student has different sets of sales data, so you can't cheat. And so you're going to have to go to the web page, and you're going to have to find where you are and download that data. So if you're a Pearl Chin, these are the data you want. I'm Bailey Norwood. This is the data I'm going to use in a tutorial, and so I'm going to get these data. And this is stored as a .txt file, not a CSV file, but you can see the data are still separated by columns. One way to get this data is click on it, open it like I did here, and then save as. And make sure you're in, that's not the folder I wanted. I want, again, it's this one. So I'm going to store it here. Another way to save this file in your folder is to right click on your name, save as, and then store it there. Right. So now we have all the data that we need, and so we're going to open up Power BI and import the data. This is I'm going to start a blank report, so I'm starting a new PBI report from scratch. I'm going to save it again in my special folder where I have all of my assignments for this. And I'll just call this the similar thing, PBI SCMB. Now I want to import my two data sets. Now by now you should know how to do this. We're going to get data. It's a text or CSV file. Yes, that is the folder I want to use. So first I'm going to download prices. And what this has, it has for each SKU being a stock keeping unit, it refers to the barcode of a specific product. So each SKU refers to a different product, and then next to it is the price of that product. This looks good, so I'm just going to load this. And you can see I come over here, prices has SKU, SKU price. When I come over here to table, it's going to give me the price of each SKU. Now I have one more data set to get. This is our sales data. Mine's called Sales 2. Yours will probably have a file name that has your name and certain letters in it. And here's what this is. These are for each SKU, for each product, each customer. So this number C41657761, that's the ID for a specific customer. This customer purchased this SKU on January 18, 2020, and they spent this much on it, $9,101. And everything looks okay here. So I'm going to go ahead and load this. I have my new table here. I come over here and look at it here if I want. And notice this has 253,000 rows. So this is a very big data set. You wouldn't want to try to work with a data set this big in Microsoft Excel, which is why we're using Power BI. The one thing left to do is these two data sets are related in that the SKUs in the sales data are also in the prices data, and I need to make sure Power BI knows that those refer to the same products. They're not independent data sets, they're linked by the SKU number. And it looks like Power BI already made that link. So normally I would grab this SKU, drag it over here. It looks like a link has already been made. I'm going to click on it just to make sure. And so it's saying in sales to the column SKU relates to prices SKU, and that looks correct, so we are good. So I've now imported all my data and I am ready to begin my analysis. Now ultimately the first thing I need to get from the data is from daily sales of this SKU that I'm interested in. I need to know the mean of daily sales and the standard deviation of daily sales. But recall, one challenge we have is in our data there will be some dates for which there are no sales. For instance, I used the example here where there's no January 3rd, 2019. If we go and we look in our data, there will be some days that are missing for some SKUs. So let me organize it like this. This is a big data set. It might be hard to actually find that, but there will be some examples where actually I'll show it to you this way. Let's make a quick table. You can just follow this if you want to and not do it on your computer. But remember, what we want to know is we're interested in sales of a SKU. I'm going to put my SKUs there. Actually, I'm going to put date in rows. Sales in values there. I'm going to do a filter. I'm going to bring filters. I'm going to bring SKU over to filters, and I want to only show where SKUs are that one SKU that we're particularly interested in, 64854,985. And then let's look at this sum. Notice we can always expand these. It's going to have every day. So January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. It's going to make it, oh, see, there's no 9th here. There's no 9th. And so what we need is a table that is going to have a row for 9th and where we put 0. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my sales to sheet here, my sales data, and I am going to create a new column that transforms sales in dollars into sales in quantity units. And so what I want to do is I want to create a new column where I'll look up what the SKU is from this other table that contains prices, and the new column value gives me that price. So I'm going to make a new column. I'm going to call it SKU. We'll just call it price, and we're going to use the function lookup value. And so the result we want is the SKU price. We want to search in prices SKU, and the value we want to search for is from sales to, which is the current table, SKU. So we're saying in this table, look up sales to SKU, look up that number, and look up that SKU in the table prices, and return to me the SKU price. And there we go. Now we have the price for each SKU. Now I can make a new column that's going to give me the quantity purchased instead of the dollar amount purchased, because I brings this data set where the price is constant across time. So if we just divide sales in dollars by price, that gives us the quantity that we purchased. So again, I'm going to do a new column, and I'm going to say quantity sold. Now, if you were doing spreadsheets, you would just say, I'm going to choose this cell and divide by that cell. This isn't a spreadsheet. Power BI is more of a database machine, database language. And so how do you do this? Well, I had to Google and figure out how to do it. I had to study and learn, and I figured out what you have to do is you use the divide function. We want to divide in the table sales to, we want to divide sales in dollars, and we want it to divide it by the price. And there we go. And I'm going to clean this up a bit. And don't worry about, we've got decimals here, people buying fractions of a unit. It's a pretend data set, so don't worry too much about it. Now we have a quantity sold. But remember, again, we have the problem with this data set. For any one SKU, they may be missing a day. For instance, we showed for this particular SKU, we were missing data on January 9th, when in reality the data set should say quantity sold was 0. The way I get a new table with all days for calendar, I'm going to exploit the fact that Power BI has an automatic calendar function. And with some study, I eventually learned that, so I'm going to go to Table Tools, I'm going to make a new table, and I'm going to create a new table. And this, I'm just going to call this My Calendar. And I'm going to do this calendar auto function. And what this is going to do here in this function, it's going to give me, it creates an automatic calendar containing every single day. So this has January 9th. And it's going to have every single day that's in my original data. To illustrate, we have sales to the data set, and it goes from January 1st, 2015 to sometime in 2022. But it's missing January 9th, at least for one SKU. And so, but my new calendar is going to have January 9th. And so this is what I'm going to be working in. So these dates in my calendar and the dates in sales to are related, right? So we need to make sure Power BI knows this. I'm going to go to Model View. I have my calendar. It has date all along, so it did not link those dates. So I need to tell Power BI this date and this date are related. So I'm going to come here, grab date, and bring it up. New relationship. Date in my calendar is related to date in sales to. Save. And now we have a relationship. Good. Go back to my table. What I need next, I want a new column here where it's going to say for each day the total sales, quantity sales of that particular SKU. And there's a particular way of achieving this. In this particular way, it may seem weird at first, but that's just because you're new to this. What I need is, remember I said this isn't a spreadsheet. It may look like one, but there's programming involved, so there's code you can do within it. Here we're going to be using something called a measure and a calculate function. What I'm going to do, and you just have to see once it's over how it works. I want to make a new measure. So a measure is just like a function we can use in various places. So you see I create a measure, comes over here, and this is going to be total, I'm going to call this measure total sales And I'm going to say it's the sum of all sales to quantity sold. So I've got some measure. It's called total sales, and it's going to be sales to of all quantity sold. And that's a measure, like a function I can put in different places and manipulate it. Right, so I just created it. It's not going to show up here because it's a measure. Think of this like an abstract function we can use later, but my new measure is over here. And now I'm going to make a new column that gives me daily sales for this particular SKU for every single day. So I'm going to Table Tools. I'm going to go New Column. And I'm going to call this Daily Quantity Sold for SKU 648 549 85. And it's going to equal. Now, I could keep putting the equation going to the right, but I want to make it a little more organized, so I'm going to hold down Shift and hit Enter. So I held down the Shift button and hit Enter. This lets me continue the expression on a new line. And I'm going to use this function called Calculate. Think of it like an Excel function in a way. I'm going to hold down Shift, go down 2 more times, right parenthesis. Now I have to tell it what I want it to calculate. I want to use the measure total sales. Good. But I don't want total sales of everything. I want total sales of one SKU. So I'm putting a comma, hold down Shift, Enter, and then I only want total sales for where sales to SKU equals 648 549 85. Now I'm going to hit Enter, and there we go. Now I have, and notice what happened here. On January 9th, I have the day, but it's still blank. I don't want it to be blank. I want it to say 0. Well, one thing I figured out you can do, I'm going to go back to my total sales measure. Total sales. Now I'm going to just put 0. Plus 0, sorry. So I've still got my normal function, the sum of all quantities sold, but if that happens to be blank, I'm going to put a plus 0. And now look. Now on January 9th for this SKU, I get a 0. This is what I needed. For every single day of the year, we get the quantity sold. Even when there are no sales, it lists the 0. Because when I'm calculating average daily amount sold, if 0 is sold, 0 needs to be in that calculation. So this was very good so far. Remember to save your work as you go along. And my final thing is I have my data. Now I just need to take the average of all these values and the standard deviation of all those values, so I can plug them in an equation here and in an equation here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to report view and make a new matrix table. And now what I want I want to go to my calendar. I want to bring date down to rows, and I want values for years, 2015 to 2022. For the values, I want the daily quantity sold of that SKU. Good. I don't want sum of quantity sold of that SKU. I want the average. Okay, this looks good, but notice something looks weird. What's going on in 2022? Well, I'll show you. 2022 is not complete. There's just, it's not that we weren't selling any, it's just the data stopped for this SKU. The year wasn't complete. And so I know that here, when I come over here, I don't want 2022 in the data. It's not complete yet. And so filters, I'm gonna bring date down here. Actually, date is automatically up here. Filters on this visual. I'll go use basic filtering, and I'm going to say don't give me 2022. Okay, good. So this has, so the average quantity sold in 2016 each day is 15,355. Now, if those seem pretty large, go back to your data and look. There are a lot of days, yeah, where there are 0 sold. Sometimes just 13 sold, but sometimes 120,009 units sold. So there's a huge amount of variability in these data. Remember, we don't just want the average quantity sold each day, we want the standard deviation each day. So let's go back here. I'm going to bring down daily Q sold. And instead of sum of, I'm going to choose standard deviation. And now we have what we need. Now we have the information we need to answer our questions. What we learned in class was that this threshold that triggers a new order, it should go by this equation where mu is average daily sales, and when we go up here, it looks like on average across all our years, each day of this SKU we sell on average 17,134 units. 17,134. L, the lead time, I have to give that to you here on this sheet. It's 8. K, the safety factor, I have to give that to you here. It's 2. This is the standard deviation of sales, of daily sales, that is. The standard deviation of daily sales across all our data is 31,172. And then divided by the square root of the lead time, 8, and now I'll make that calculation. Looks like the answer is 313,400. We'll just round up 408. So we monitor our inventories. Whenever inventories go as low as 300,408, we trigger a new order. How much do we order? How much do we order at each time we purchase? Well, that's calculated using Q star. And here I have to give you R, the ordering cost. I'm telling you it's 20,000. I have to give you the storage cost. Here I tell you it's $5 per unit per year. And we learn in class, you do this calculation. So I'm telling you R is 10,000. D is the estimated total yearly sales And the way we calculate that, we say there are 365.25 days in a year. Every day, on average, we sell 17,134 units. Got that from here. And then H was $5. And that should tell us how much to order each time. Let's make that calculation. This says we should order 158,218 each time. And this will be in units. So again, what this means, we monitor our inventory levels. And whenever inventory levels get as low as 313,408, we go ahead and we order 158,218 units. The last thing I would like to see is a nice bar graph showing daily sales of this SKU. You know, we've been analyzing this one specifically. We've been really keen on understanding how daily sales fluctuate, so I think it'd be good to do a graph of it over time. I'm going to accomplish that by I'm going to make a new page. I'm going to go to Report View, and I'm going to choose Line Chart. I want to bring date on the x-axis and then daily Q sold on the y-axis. Remember, 2022 is not complete, so I want to remove that year from my graph. Don't want day or year. These are very big numbers in a million, because what it's showing us, we can put our cursor right here and we can see the sum of daily quantities sold, and this is throughout all of 2017. So the sum of every daily quantity sold was about 6.5 million. And notice something, when remember Big D was the total expected sales throughout a year. And we said average sales were 17,134, and so we multiplied it by 365 to get anticipated total sales for that year. Well, if you multiplied 365.25 times 17134, we get looks like 6.2 million. 6.2 million is about the middle here, so that makes sense. I want to get to the point where I can look at what happens on a day-to-day basis. Power BI has some nice features. They have one thing you can go to next level in the hierarchy, another where you can go down one level in the hierarchy. So let's look at this one first. If I click next level in the hierarchy, it's gonna, instead of showing me total sales for the year, it'll then show me for the quarter. That's a subset of a year. Then it'll show me total sales for the month, which is a subset of a quarter. And then this gives me like the total sales on the 25th day of the month, which isn't that helpful. But what is more helpful, so I hit this arrow to go back up to my original graph. Now I'm expand all down one level in the hierarchy. So first we're starting off where it shows total sales for the year. And now it's showing at each point in time the total sales for the quarter. So sum of daily Q sold 2016 quarter 4. If I go down one more, it's going to show me the sum sold on a month. Let's see if I can go down one more. Yeah, here we go. Okay. And so now I think it's giving me a very specific day here now. And to see if that's the case, I'm going to come here and I want to show it as a table. Yes, so January 1st, notice January 9th, 0, we know that's correct. So it is now giving me sales for each day. I can go back to report. So this is what daily sales look like over time. It's highly volatile. Most of the time it tends to be, right around here. Sometimes it's really low. Sometimes it's 0. Sometimes it's really high. Let me go back up. Let's see what this looks like. Show as table. So now it's giving me total sales for the quarter. I no longer have a day. I'm sorry, for the month. It's giving me total sales for the January, February, March, and so on. If I go up one more, it's giving me total sales for the quarter. If I go up one more, it's giving me total quantity sold for the year. In your worksheet, I've got two other questions. One, I'm going to say it'll be something like this. So what was the total amount of this SKU sold during March of 2019? And to answer that, you can come here and easily just go down level of hierarchy. So 2019, and we want March. Make sure. March 2019. March 2019, 519565. $519,565 units. And then I want you to create a line chart showing daily sales from 2019 to 2021, following the formatting guidelines I'm about to give you, and you upload it to Canvas as a PDF file with this file name. What I want you to do here is get that original chart showing that. Yeah, so this is the one showing daily sales, and we know it shows daily sales because we can come down here and check. I want it to show from 2019 to 2021. Date, year. So I don't want everything. I want 2019, 20, 21. And then we want to format this one nicely. So I'm going to go over here, format your visual for x-axis. It has dates here. Those look fine. I don't think we need an x-axis title because anybody can look at those dates and know what that means. I do want to, let's change the font to Georgia. Let's make it 12. I want bold, and I want the color to be black. Okay, that looks good. So that's got my x-axis. Y-axis. Values, I want Georgia. 12 font. bold, and black font. Okay, I like that. For title, I don't like this title. So I'm going to change it to something that's easier to understand. So I'm going to type daily quantity, daily sales quantity, so people know it's quantity, not dollars. Daily sales quantity for SKU 648 549 85. And you know what's coming. I want Georgia 12. Now let's make it 16. Bold, black. Let's see. All right, let's go to general, and for title, I'm going to we'll call this general. Well, let's name this daily sales for SKU 648 549 85. And yep, you know it's coming. We want Georgia 16, bold. It looks like sardine black. Okay, I like that. Last thing I want to do, maybe we want to change this blue to something else. Maybe it's going to be a black and white report, so we want it to be black. Let's see. Visual grid lines, land style, color. I bet it's, yep, here we go. And let's make it something, let's make it black. No, let's keep it some kind of orange. I just don't want the regular blue. I want to know that you could actually go in and change the color. This is the only chart we need, so I'm going to come here and we want to export this. Let's see, export. I want to get rid of these two sheets because we don't want to export those. Just want to export. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just export two things. The chart you made here and the table you made here and your bar chart here. We'll just export those two. So export to PDF. And there, it made it. And we want to save this in our special folder. This is where I'm keeping all my files. Let's save it there. I've got my answers here. So I've already saved that. Now I'm going to go back to my folder that has all my goodies, and I'm going to make sure everything's there because I need to upload these things. Oh, and I was supposed to give this a better file name, right? Remember, so Norwood Bailey, PBIB. I've got all my answers there, so I checked that. Remember, I needed to name the PDF file this. Well, I can still change the name. There we go. I'm going to open it up here to make sure everything's there. Okay, good. So I know when I upload it, it'll be uploaded. Yeah, everything looks good. So then I just have to upload these two files to Canvas, and then my assignment's complete.